The anime begins with students in a classroom discussing the schoolgirl beauty pageant. The pupils in the class decide who they would support in the beauty pageant. Meanwhile, Natsuki, one of the class's most attractive students, enters a beauty contest, and her friends show their support. Not long after, a large-bodied student with a menacing face entered the classroom. His name is Takuma, and he goes by the nickname Akuma. Unfortunately, the pupils in the classroom were scared of him. Soon after, Natsuki's boyfriend cautions her to stay away from Akuma. However, deep down, she feels sorry for Takuma in class. On the other hand, a student council member named Matsumi is concerned that Takuma would cause problems at the school festival. The student council president, Itsuyo, advised him to calm down since she was confident Takuma would not do anything wrong. On the other hand, she felt bad for him. Takuma has no pals and enjoys reading alone. He used to want to befriend other people, but everyone was afraid of him, so no one approached him. Takuma has now isolated himself and developed a fear of meeting new people. On his way home, Takuma watches a television show in the park and notices Matsumi, a Valkyrie student in his class, as a guest. He disregarded it, however, and remained in the garden, reading a book. Takuma believes that he does not need friends forever because studying is more important. Unfortunately, everyone who passes through the park believes he is a nasty person. Takuma then began his trek back home. He assumed that because he lived alone, his house was always quiet and calm. However, this has changed because his mansion now houses 9 gorgeous beauties known as Valkyries. Takuma is unable to concentrate on his studies while in his room due to the chaos at his house. He was shocked that none of the girls were terrified of his intimidating look. He tried to get the girls to leave his house so he could concentrate on preparing for next year's tests, but he was unsuccessful. Takuma was strolling down the hallway of his house, reading the message in his hand, when Natsuki passed him, and he was terrified to see her. Futaba believes Takuma likes Natsuki based on his behavior, so she attempts to persuade him to spend more time with her. When Natsuki is alone with Takuma to study, she asks if he dislikes studying with her. Takuma innocently stated that he loved studying alone. Natsuki is disappointed with his response and instructs him to start studying. In another room, the females talked about Takuma, who ignored them and concentrated solely on his studies. Itsuyo claimed that their father, Odin, permitted the Valkyries to live in the house because he was their lover. Meanwhile, Takuma, who was studying with Natsuki, was distracted by her presence. Suddenly, his eraser slipped beneath the table near Natsuki. Because of this, he crawled under the table to retrieve it. Natsuki, who is upset because of her poor math scores, becomes irritated when she finds Takuma crawling under her feet and smacks him to get him to study more seriously. Takuma, who has no evil intents against Natsuki, stated that his mother begged him to be good. That is why he would never do anything wrong to her. Futaba appeared unexpectedly and requested that Takuma and Natsuki go to the grocery to get toilet paper. Then she asked Takuma to hold Natsuki's hand on the road. As Takuma and Natsuki proceeded towards the convenience shop, they heard an announcement over the loudspeaker warning everyone not to venture out at night. Natsuki asked Takuma why he didn't defend himself when he was accused of wrecking the school festival due of his moniker, Akuma. Hearing that, he just remarked that explaining it to people would be pointless because they were all terrified of his scary visage and large body. In the midst of their debate, the monster Akuma appears and attacks the citizens. Takuma suddenly rescues Natsuki from a powerful demon who has arrived in the human realm. Fortunately, they eventually fought the Akuma together. Takuma then argues they can't win the fight, but Natsuki tells him to go hide and she'll fight. Natsuki was suddenly attacked. Fortunately, Takuma quickly defended her before being stabbed in the back with glass. At the moment, he knew that connecting with others would be problematic. That is why he did not mind living alone his entire life. Natsuki is an Asgardian Valkyrie whose power stems from the power of love. After kissing Takuma, she gains strength and defeats the Akuma monster. It turned out that Valkyries grew stronger while in love. When Takuma saw Natsuki fighting the monster, he remembered Odin, who had handed all of his daughters, specifically the Valkyries, to Takuma, the Valkyries' lover. Odin urged Takuma to have his 9 daughters fall in love with him so that they could all grow stronger. The next day, Natsuki and the other Valkyries attend school together. When they stroll, other students notice their beauty. Meanwhile, Takuma, who was not far behind them, preferred to stroll alone and appeared serious and frightening because he was concerned about the exam results that will be published. In his thoughts, he stated that he does not appear to care about the opinions of those who frequently abuse him. During her first campaign, Itsuyo asked her student council members to do their homework, and Matsumura commended her brilliance. Itsuyo then expressed her gratitude to Matsumura and his colleagues for their unwavering support. It turned out that Itsuyo was commended since she received the highest ranking in the school. Meanwhile, Natsuki is seen grumbling to Matsumi about Itsuyo achieving first place at school. When Natsuki and Matsumi checked their ranks, they discovered that Matsumi was placed 30th and Natsuki was ranked lower, making her hesitant to view her siblings' ratings. Takuma appears lonely and melancholy on the school roof since he is at the bottom of the hierarchy. When Natsuki and Matsumi ask why, he explains that he can't concentrate on studying during the exam because there are so many people in his house, and that being in the middle of so many people makes it difficult for him to write the answers to each exam question, even though he knows the answers, due to his human phobia. Natsuki reminded Takuma of this so that he wouldn't become overwhelmed by his melancholy. After then, he departed the school roof. Matsumi reminds Natsuki that Takuma's illness will not be discussed once he leaves. Soon later, Itsuyo brought Takuma to an empty classroom, where she revealed her desire to grow her power by instilling sentiments of love in him. However, when Takuma arrived, he was so apprehensive and scared due to his fear that all of Itsuyo's approach methods failed. Takuma, terrified, fled the classroom after witnessing Itsuyo's violence. Natsuki, who was in the changing room with Itsuyo, made fun of her right away after learning about the incident. She was completely obsessed with Takuma. Itsuyo stormed out of the room and headed to the field to exercise. She was astonished to see the Akuma monster approaching because, as Odin predicted, the monster had not yet appeared. Natsuki, who had increased her power level after kissing Takuma the night before, appeared on the field and transformed into a Valkyrie to face Akuma. Matsumi, on the field, wanted to help but gave up because her strength level was dwindling. Itsuyo kidnaps Takuma in order to level up, while Natsuki fights Akuma until Itsuyo arrives with her new powers. Itsuyo attempted to seduce Takuma in an empty classroom, but was unsuccessful, which made her sad because she had always wanted to be loved by Odin, his father. Takuma massaged her head with pity, making her feel loved. Then she kissed him, and her strength level increased. On the field, Natsuki appeared overwhelmed by Akuma's attack until Itsuyo arrived with her might, and they both defeated the monster. Matsumura and his companions, on the other hand, were on the lookout for Itsuyo when they came upon her with Takuma and others. She got lost at school because it was too big. When Takuma and Natsuki are alone, she expresses her delight at Takuma and Itsuyo's friendship since it indicates that he is beginning to conquer his phobia in order to improve his test scores. He reddened as she stated all of those things. Unexpectedly, Inukai, the man with blonde hair who serves the wicked gods, has discovered that Takuma is the Valkyries' lover and plans to attack him at the appropriate time. Takuma is seen having a date with Matsumi at night in order to enhance her strength level. After that, she takes Takuma to a cafe and believes she is so thrilled that she will approach him there. Matsumi's classmate, Yamada, happened to be at the table next to her. They can hear Yamada's chat, and he pretends to be close to her, so Takuma asks him the truth. Matsumi explained that she had only spoken with Yamada once. Yamada abruptly shifts the topic of conversation when he informs his companions that Takuma is a murderer, and that Takuma's parents are members of a crime syndicate. When Matsumi inquired, Takuma became irritated and said that his parents were average office employees. Yamada was taken aback when he realized Takuma was following him and had heard all he was saying, so he jumped out the cafe window. Everyone in the cafe was astonished to observe the incident and blamed Takuma of pushing Yamada out. Matsumi felt saddened because Takuma was accused of something he had not done. Takuma then explained that he was used to being mistreated. Matsumi, who feels sorry for him, is determined to make him happy by giving him a wonderful experience. Finally, she asked Takuma where he wanted to go after the cafe. Takuma and Matsumi then headed to a bookshop because Takuma stated that he wanted to purchase national examination books. He hoped to pass the exam because he had previously failed the final semester exam. Matsumi was taken aback by his dream after hearing this. She claimed that when she was younger, Natsuki always protected her and Itsuyo, even when she was attacked by Akuma. Matsumi said that Natsuki and Itsuyo had a tight childhood relationship. However, it is inversely related to the current scenario since Natsuki, Itsuyo's student, clashes at home because she constantly brings up Itsuyo's history. Matsumi remarked that becoming an idol with a large following has helped her grow stronger. That is why she wishes to strengthen herself further in order to assist the other Valkyries. Takuma also remembered his late mother, who was sick, and regretted the situation to the point of sadness. Then he informed Matsumi that he would go pay for the book first. Takuma and Matsumi proceeded to another cafe to discuss after he purchased the desired book. Unfortunately, he noticed Inukai there, which startled him. Because of this, he asked her to leave the cafe. Matsumi misinterpreted him and assumed he did not want to be alone with her. Then, when she spotted Inukai, who appeared to want to eat them both, they decided to escape. As they were departing, a low-level Akuma revealed to the crowd that the idol Matsumi was there. Everyone rushed after her to get an autograph. Takuma, bewildered, then pulled her away and hid in a little vault, forcing them to cuddle. While the admirers continue to hunt for her, Matsumi believes that if Takuma is a bad guy, he may have been abused. Meanwhile, Takuma suspected Matsumi was uncomfortable around him. Matsumi discovered that in order to leave, he required the energy of love. Then she asks Takuma to kiss her. However, her low stature makes it impossible for him to accomplish this. Then she had the impulse to kiss his chest. When the fans become suspicious of the closet where Takuma and Matsumi are hiding, her power level surges and they both survive the fans' pursuit. They were currently flying through the air, admiring the beauty of the sunset. Takuma, who watched the scene, was pleased since it reminded him of nice memories he had with his mother. Matsumi felt relieved and thrilled when she saw his cheerful smile. Meanwhile, Ikika, the Valkyries' eldest sister, is bored of watching after the foolish Takuma. Nonetheless, the sisters are grateful that Ikika arrived to protect them, and it allows them to focus on dating in order to increase their strength level. On the other hand, Inukai discovered that Takuma had guards and planned his attack on the Valkyries at the school festival. Takuma and Matsumi return home after their date and are greeted by the other Valkyries because their date increased her power level. Takuma then took the national exam test to retake his failing final semester exam. Unfortunately, he was unable to return since the exam site was so crowded that he was terrified and could not answer the questions. Knowing this, a Valkyrie named Misa asks Takuma to play with all of the Valkyries. He couldn't deny the invitation because he was terrified of all of them. Takuma accidentally entered the room as the Valkyries were changing before heading out to play. Because of this, Itsuyo reminded him to knock on the door first. The game begins after all of the Valkyries change clothing, with Futaba acting as the underwear thief while the others fight her to prevent her from stealing their possessions. While the other Valkyries have been hiding in their different locations, Takuma and Itsuyo, who are together, intend to maintain their love level. Takuma was concerned because he had previously stroked her head, but Itsuyo indicated she didn't mind if Takuma stroked her head again. Futaba arrived shortly after, smashing the room's walls. The Valkyries worked together to weaken her defenses. They were observed fighting inside the room. Takuma elected to leave the room and wander till he reached a room in another part of his house. Suddenly, the voice of another Valkyrie named Shino, who was confined owing to a curse, could be heard in the room. Takuma startled out of his daydream when he heard her voice. Shino stated that Takuma should accept responsibility for what happened rather than fleeing. Suddenly, Natsuki, who had lost to Futaba, was thrown out near Takuma, and Futaba switched her focus to him. Takuma was scared after witnessing Futaba's attack on the other Valkyries. He expected to be attacked as well, but instead she gave him an amulet that allowed him to pass the test. Futaba claimed that the game was created specifically to cheer him up. as he was upset and had studied hard for his examinations. Natsuki then thanked Takuma for letting the Valkyries stay there. At night, the Valkyries are shown bathing together and discussing the amulet they gave Takuma, which Natsuki hopes he enjoys. Takuma stared at his talisman in another room and reflected on how long it had been since he had gotten a gift from anyone. The next day, Takuma and the Valkyries reassembled, and it was clear that the Valkyries were eager to increase their might. Natsuki attempts to grab Takuma's attention by wiping the classroom windows. Takuma, who was busy reading books, ignored her, leading her to believe that he had lost interest in her since other Valkyrie bodies were more appealing than hers. Even Yamada, who attempted to assist and converse with Natsuki, was ignored by her until she unexpectedly clutched his hand and muttered bizarre things. That made Yamada pleased. He jumped away from the classroom window. Soon after, Natsuki's classmates requested that she wear a maid outfit to the festival exams. Natsuki, who thought the garments as beautiful, agreed. During the student council festival inspection, Inukai introduced himself to Natsuki, who was now dressed in the maid outfit. Inukai complimented her beauty, making her flush. When it was Takuma's turn to describe what would be done at the school festival, Natsuki, who was in front of him, kept trying to draw his attention. However, he avoided meeting Natsuki and asked her to make him a parfait, Takuma's favorite dish. The parfait unintentionally spilled upon Takuma's clothes after it was served. It made the other male students in the class jealous since it drew Natsuki's attention, who was attempting to clean his clothes. Takuma irritated the students, so they attempted to attack him. At the same time, Inukai took out a crimson stone, causing the students to transform into Akumas. Natsuki, astonished, begins to suspect Akuma is a wicked god's messenger. Then she attempted to battle Akuma. Takuma, who was now being attacked by multiple Akumas, stood up abruptly after hearing Natsuki scream because she had been attacked by an Akuma. He fought the Akuma till they vanished in an instant. From behind the door, Inukai watched the commotion and realized Takuma was the source of the Valkyries' power. Takuma and Natsuki left school together. He claimed that the attacks on the school had halted lessons. Meanwhile, Natsuki, still perplexed by her thoughts, explains that Takuma no longer likes her because she believes she is no longer attractive. Takuma, on the other hand, refuted the allegations and stated that she was really attractive. Natsuki fled from him, embarrassed by what she had heard. Takuma was then spotted on a date with a Valkyrie named Yakumo, who was dressed in a middle school uniform. The two of them went to the school's maid cafe, where Natsuki watched the date from afar because she was jealous. Natsuki, who had become a server at the cafe, then delivered a glass of their drink order. When the drink arrived, Yakumo asked Takuma to drink it from her fingers, and she observed him do so. As a result, Natsuki appears increasingly envious of what he has accomplished. Later, the other Valkyries gathered at Maid Cafe to discuss the school dance festival. Natsuki explained she didn't have time, despite her desire to dance with Takuma. Soon after, Misa invites Natsuki to dance with Takuma tonight. She eventually accepts the offer after her sister insists on it. Takuma, on the other hand, refuses to dance with her because Natsuki is a popular girl at school, and their relationship has been fraught with problems. As a result, he asked another Valkyrie to dance with him. Natsuki was so disappointed and saddened to hear Takuma's words that she feigned to have another work and departed. Futaba, who understood her emotions, approached her and consoled her younger sister. Natsuki then explains that Ikika is supervising the school festival since they are suspicious of Akuma's unexpected entrance at school. Takuma, Misei, and Kiruri enter the scary home section. Misa was seen walking in front, clutching the hands of the terrified Takuma and Kiruri. The students who acted as ghosts were envious of Takuma, who was usually surrounded by attractive girls. A male student intended to toss an eel at Takuma, but the eel went into Misei's clothing instead. Because of this, she worried and asked Takuma to take the eel outdoors. Takuma met Inukai while about to throw the eel into the pond. Seeing what he accomplished, Inukai thought Takuma was interesting, and he began to carry out his malicious plan. He made Akuma possess the children in the school, which caused the Valkyries to worry due to the large number of Akuma. Ikika, who knew this, was prepared to fight. Meanwhile, Inukai has transformed into a terrifying figure, injuring Takuma. Misa then assigns the duty of breaking the barrier and rejoining Takuma to the gathered Valkyries. Soon afterwards, the Valkyries began assaulting the Akumas. Ikika suddenly came to the Valkyries' help, claiming that Takuma had been kidnapped. Inukai is watching over the Valkyries, who are being overpowered by the Akuma. Inukai also tortures the injured Takuma. Natsuki became concerned about Takuma's health as the Valkyrie grew tired. Ikika claims that their enemy did not kill Takuma because the shield she constructed for him is still active. Natsuki felt relieved upon hearing this. Meanwhile, Takuma, who had been helpless, recalled Natsuki's message and attempted to attack Inukai. Inukai, who had more power, quickly blocked the attack and defeated him. At the same time, Futaba arrives to save Takuma after noticing Inukai, the wicked god's envoy, acting suspiciously. Futaba is about to attack Inukai, but he threatens to cut Takuma's throat. As a result, she patiently allows Inukai to do anything he wants before unexpectedly attacking him. After then, she requested Takuma to leave and meet Natsuki. However, as a result of Inukai's attack, the parasite inside Takuma's body emerged from his stomach, cutting him. Fortunately, Takuma's body recovered after receiving the Misteltein amulet from the Valkyries, and he ran outside. When Inukai saw this, he was astonished. Futaba was upset when he fought Inukai because the Valkyries chose Takuma, who was deemed weak. She explains that Takuma possesses Misteltein and is bolstered by a powerful force. Takuma, who was running towards Natsuki, was stopped and attacked by Akuma. At the same time, he recalled his childhood hospital visits with his mother. Takuma appears to have answered his mother's inquiries accurately. He aspires to attend a reputable institution and work in a large office in order to become a respectable person that his peers will approach and want to be friends with. Takuma's mother patted his head, which contained mature ideas. Not long after, Ikika arrived to assist Takuma in defeating the Akuma who had attacked him. At that point, Ikika began to feel warrior force emanating from his body. Takuma finally met with Natsuki, and they planned to enhance her power level by holding and kissing for 5 minutes. When the other Valkyries were fatigued from fighting Akuma, Natsuki appeared with new strength and attacked him with her swords. However, Akuma swallowed the entire sword assault. The only option is to employ the Holy Sword. Meanwhile, Inukai, who was fighting Futaba, appeared to be overrun. She despised the wicked gods because they convened primarily to prepare for the impending great conflict. After that, he elected to flee and threw 2 arrows, which Futaba quickly collected. On the other hand, Natsuki attacks Akuma with the strength of the Holy Sword. Her Holy Sword was so powerful that it could defeat Akuma with a single slash. Taka, a member of the wicked gods, rescues Inukai, who has lost. Inukai was worried that Takuma would become stronger, and they would be unable to combat him. After a weird incident at school, the festival reopens for a beauty contest and Matsumi wins. Takuma then congratulated Matsumi for winning the event. Matsumi then invites him to dance with her at the gala, explaining that the winner of the beauty pageant will later become his dancing partner. But Takuma refused, stating that he wanted to dance with Natsuki. Natsuki, who knew, appeared startled that he had chosen her. Matsumi eventually relented because it was his wish. Takuma can be seen speaking with Natsuki in the changing room. He explains that he wants to make amends to her and invites her to dance with him. Takuma indicated that he intended to overcome his fear of dancing with Natsuki. Natsuki then kissed him as a thank you, claiming that her strength had increased, and she suspected that an adversary would attack again. Soon later, the dancing party began. Everyone, including Takuma and Natsuki, appeared happy. A few days later, the Valkyries decided to play a doctor-patient game in Takuma's residence to increase their power. Takuma will be the doctor who examines the Valkyries like patients. Following his agreement, he began to open his practice, and the Valkyries entered one by one. Takuma was surprised when the Valkyries fled in fright before the examination. Kuriri, who became the final patient, attempted to assist Takuma by providing tools to help him become as intelligent as a physician. Because the instrument came from Asgard, he couldn't contain it and quickly ran out and exploded, leading him to be healed by the Valkyries. After Takuma recovered, Itsuyo wanted to do something to please him, but he was worried since she appeared forceful. Misa warned Itsuyo not to force Takuma. Itsuyo soon begged Misa to teach her how to date, as she had never done so before. After all, Misa was renowned in Asgard as a love specialist. Misa, on the other hand, believes she has never fallen in love and hence is unaware of the dating scene. Misa spent her days in Asgard battling. When she went home, she cared for her younger siblings. Misa then requested Itsuyo to think of a way to date. Itsuyo said that her urge to date was motivated by a desire to increase her power level after feeling bad for failing to protect the other Valkyries during the school festival. Then Misa accepts and attempts to teach Itsuyo about dating. Val Love's mission is carried out as a dating lesson, and Misa invites Takuma to join her in sewing dolls while he folds clothes in the same room. Itsuyo takes notes on what Misa does inside the room to use as a dating reference. Inside the room, an anxious Takuma was about to leave but was stopped by Misa, so he completed his duty of folding all the garments. Misa soon became apprehensive about the scenario. She began to hope that an hour would soon pass. The unforeseen happenings brought Takuma and Misa's faces together. After that, they began their own pursuits. Takuma completed folding all of the garments and explained that his mother trained him to fold clothes before the Valkyries arrived. Therefore, Takuma was used to doing so after his mother died. Not long after, Misa finished sewing the doll and delivered it to Natsuki, who seemed pleased with the gift. Finally, Val Love's 1-hour task in the room was complete. The next day, the Valkyries prepare for Akuma's impending onslaught, and Futaba instructs Natsuki to turn into a Valkyrie. Shortly after, Natsuki approached Takuma and kissed him. Unfortunately, he was unable to change despite repeated attempts. Unfortunately, Natsuki did not alter either. Natsuki's app was empty while battling at the festival, thus she can't fight anytime soon. Futaba then shows the Valkyries' levels, revealing that Matsumi and Yakumo are the only ones capable of fighting Akuma. Soon later, Takuma and Yakumo completed their Val Love quest of holding hands for 1 hour. In a park, they sat hand in hand. Takuma, who was thirsty, requested Yakumo to give him some of the drink she was drinking, but Yakumo refused and claimed Takuma was a pervert. From home, the other Valkyries kept track of the date. Natsuki was clearly annoyed because Takuma had asked her about Yakumo, who was constantly wearing headphones the night before. Natsuki reveals that Yakumo has extraordinary hearing abilities, therefore she wears headphones and is not bothered by the sounds. Takuma, who remembered Natsuki's explanation, attempted to slow his heartbeat. Unfortunately, Yamada screamed behind them after witnessing Matsumi, which surprised Takuma and caused him to remove his hand from Yakumo. Because of this, Val loved Takuma and Yakumo's mission failed. Yakumo protests over Odin's choice of the weak Takuma as the Valkyries' lover. Then, Yakumo claims that Takuma can heal Natsuki's app. Takuma later said that he attempted to acquire the healing technique from the book, but the power did not manifest. Yakumo, who heard his explanation, became irritated and said he was extremely weak. Takuma's next Val Love task is a 30-minute private photo shoot with Matsumi at her shooting site. Takuma is now determined to complete the Val Love shooting mission successfully because Yakumo stated that he was weak. Yamada was also observed waiting outside the building to hand Matsumi a book. Akuma emerges on the Matsumi set unexpectedly, scaring everyone. Soon after, Ikika and Futaba attempted to combat the Akuma and appeared to be overrun. Meanwhile, Matsumi, who is aware of Akuma's presence, requests that Takuma finish his task immediately so that she can become a Valkyrie. Matsumi and Yakumo change into Valkyries after successfully scaling up their strength and fighting Akuma. Takuma then remembered Misae's proposal to battle Akuma by playing until he was fatigued, and he instructed Matsumi and Yakumo to do the same. However, Akuma proves to be too powerful and assaults them, prompting the three of them to flee. Matsumi and Yakumo's app quickly dwindled as their time ran out. Takuma notices a telegram from Futaba, indicating that she has entrusted her younger siblings to him. Futaba then stated that Takuma could use her Misteltein to raise his strength, and summoned Einhager and Buku to boost Matsumi and Yakumo's app. Takuma was eventually able to vanquish Akuma with his willpower. Taka could be seen from a distance watching Takuma and Akuma battle. He believes Takuma's strength hasn't fully awakened and decides to awaken Princess Scold to battle Takuma. After the bout, Natsuki offered Takuma a drink and stated that he was cool enough to defeat Akuma. Meanwhile, Yakumo purchased a drink for him, which was not served. Futaba then asks Natsuki and Itsuyo to complete the Val Love task. Natsuki is a pervert on the train during the operation, and Itsuyo becomes the victim. Takuma portrays the man who saves Itsuyo. When the expedition began, Natsuki and Itsuyo were seen taking the subway, while Takuma was at one of the train stops. Takuma is arrested at the station after police officers suspect him of something. Takuma was eventually released after explaining that there had been a mistake. Meanwhile, Natsuki and Itsuyo complete their objective until the train arrives at the station, where Takuma is waiting. Takuma was on a quest to safeguard Itsuyo from Natsuki. Takuma, who boarded the train, promptly sought out Itsuyo's location and saved her, completing the task successfully. Taka claims to be Inukai's younger brother, which has made him popular due to his beautiful and adorable features. When Taka gets home, he is greeted by Inukai, who has been starving for 3 days and is now turning into his actual form. Taka dismissed it as inconsequential because they needed to prepare a welcome for Princess Scold, who would soon arrive at their home. Taka, however, bought food for Inukai and pierced an arrow into his head to cause him to return to his human form. Not long later, Roskva, a Snorri and Princess Skuld's maid, arrives and delivers Princess Skuld's orders to Taka and Inukai to slaughter all the Valkyries and seize Misteltein. Taka promptly accepted the order. Meanwhile, Takuma tells Natsuki that despite his best efforts, he is unable to conjure books. Natsuki then inquired about the book he was carrying. Takuma responded that it was a school textbook and advised her to study harder, and she agreed. Natsuki sneezed repeatedly during their chat due to the cold. Takuma then held her hand to keep her warm. She was embarrassed and inquired why he was holding her hand without permission. Before he could respond, an evil aura was detected, and Natsuki attempted to protect Takuma. Natsuki is tired of fighting the evil aura because she cannot transform into a Valkyrie. It turned out that the person who attacked Natsuki this time was Ikika. Ikika returned home with Natsuki and Takuma, and she was furious with Takuma for failing to properly care for the Valkyrie. Even she banged the chair, scaring him. Futaba then arrives and instructs them to complete the Val Love objective of rubbing each other's bodies while washing. Soon later, Takuma and Ikika are in the restroom. Takuma is clearly scared of Ikika, who is still criticizing him. She stated that Takuma was unable to summon the book because he had not fallen in love with the Valkyrie. On the other hand, Futaba invites Natsuki and Yakumo to join the expedition. Yakumo, who had been in the bathroom, inquired whether Natsuki liked Takuma. Natsuki, who answered the question haltingly, informed Yakumo that she liked Takuma and asked her to notify him right away. In the dining room, Kyuri inquires about Ikika's strength. Misa adds that Ikika possesses the greatest Valkyrie power and can defend against gods. Ikika, on the other hand, has a skin deficiency that makes her very sensitive to friction. Not long after Val Love's task was accomplished, it was pronounced successful, and Ikika leveled up despite her low AP value due to Takuma's touch on her vulnerability. Princess Skuld, one of the 3 Norn sisters, has risen and is seen with Roskva preparing to invade enemy land and assassinate Takuma. Roskva, Princess Skuld, and Inukai visited him. Ikika, however, hindered their arrival. Princess Skuld mocked Ikika's bravery in facing them alone. She said that her objective was not to assassinate anyone, but to help the future. Ikika noticed Inukai and assaulted him, taking Roskva captive. With a hostage, Ikika requests that Princess Skuld return to Asgard as quickly as possible. If she refuses, Ikika will breach her pledge to Odin and murder Roskva with her sword. Taka used a telescope to monitor their movements from a distance. While Ikika is still holding Roskva hostage, Yamada, who is under the influence of someone, appears, and Ikika attacks him because she believes Yamada is an enemy. Princess Skuld saw an opportunity and summoned countless Akuma. Soon after, Takuma and the other Valkyrie attempted to assist Ikika, But the combat was halted when Princess Skuld opted to retreat because one of her members had been hurt. At home, Ikuka tells Futaba about the incident. Futaba then informs Misa that a demigoddess from Asgard has arrived to attack. Ikuka and Takuma had to work together to strengthen themselves throughout that incident. However, because she did not consider Takuma as a real guy, the mission to increase her power level failed numerous times. Even she purchased an adult men's magazine for Takuma. Natsuki, who was present, noticed Takuma had also purchased something at the market and asked him about it. However, he replied haltingly that he had purchased a book and then left the room. In the evening, the Valkyrie discussed Princess Skuld's reaction to abruptly retiring in the previous battle. Ikuka reveals that if the enemy's app is high, they can simply call Akuma. When everyone was talking about Princess Skuld, Natsuki was still curious about what Takuma had purchased because he was acting strangely. Natsuki was so preoccupied with her thoughts that she didn't aware she had consumed the Curie potion, so she began to grow drunk, lost control, and hugged Takuma, who had just entered the room. Takuma, astonished, inquired as to what had happened to Natsuki. Futaba just stated that Natsuki had drunk the medicine and begged him to accompany her to her room. Ikuka suddenly threatens him, ensuring that Takuma would not do anything odd to Natsuki. Matsumi and Misa tried to distract the subject by complimenting Ikuka for purchasing adult men's magazines, hoping to keep her from being furious with Takuma. Takuma then brought Natsuki to her room to relax, where she began acting suspiciously. Natsuki discovers shortly after waking up from her hangover that Takuma purchased a dating magazine in order to learn more about love. Takuma then asked Natsuki about love because he had never been in love. After that, he inquires as to whether Natsuki has ever liked someone in Asgard. Hearing it, she became irritated because Takuma was unaware of her affections for him. Natsuki stated unequivocally that she liked foolish individuals who did not like her. Then she tells herself that if she declares her love now and is rejected, she has no idea what would follow because Valkyrie's strength is based on love. Finally, she waits for Takuma to proclaim his love first. Futaba can also be seen fighting Akuma elsewhere. She fights to safeguard the Valkyries, whose home has been fortified with a strong castle wall to keep the enemy out. Ikuka tells Futaba and Misa that they can't prevail against Princess Skuld right now and suggests killing her lover, Roskva, to render her impotent. When Princess Skuld attacks, the Valkyrie launches a surprise attack on her. Futaba would fight Princess Skuld because Natsuki was unable to do so. Ikuka, on the other hand, is concerned about Takuma's weakness, as she can only hold out for so long. Takuma suddenly emerged and joined the debate regarding the attack. Since Futaba is going to fight, she requires a Val Love quest with Takuma. They began their goal by hugging naked and kissed for 5 minutes. While on the expedition, she encouraged Takuma that he could become a real man and a source of power for the Valkyrie. During the fight between Futaba and Akuma, Princess Skuld underestimates the Valkyrie's strength, particularly Takuma, who appears to be feeble. Even Princess Skuld couldn't understand why someone as feeble as Takuma would become Valkyrie's protector. Meanwhile, Ikuka and Takuma devise an alternate strategy to keep Princess Skuld unaware of their plans. On the way, Ikuka teaches about Etha, the Valkyrie's soul strength. A Valkyrie's power grows as the amount of Etha used increases. Ikuka further claims that Futaba's Etha is so little that it cannot be attacked directly. Nonetheless, Futaba's protection is formidable because she is a student of the god of thunder in Asgard. Futaba appeared tired of fighting Akuma after a while, but she persisted in her quest to protect her Valkyrie. Princess Skuld became frustrated with Futaba's refusal to give up and asked Futaba to die so she could slay the other Valkyrie. On the other hand, Ikuka and Takuma were able to slip behind Princess Skuld and begin their task. However, he sensed something was odd, so he paused before striking Princess Skuld. Takuma then began hating himself for failing to be a true lover to the Valkyrie, resulting in their lack of power. His focus on battling Princess Skuld had also been diverted when he noticed a battered Futaba. Princess Skuld was upset because Futaba's castle did not collapse despite the fact that her Akuma had been attacked. At the same time, Ikuka began to assault. Takuma's previous concerns were confirmed. Roskva reveals that she has an egg inside her body that would allow her to grow stronger and fight Ikika. Takuma then saves Ikika from Roskva's explosion and transports her unconscious body to hide from Princess Skuld's pursuit. Takuma prayed that the Einhager's strength within him would emerge to fight. Weak Ikika says he should return home so that Einhager does not fall into enemy hands. Takuma refused to leave her. Takuma completes the Val Love assignment at their hideout to increase Ikika's power, and she understands Takuma is the one she has always wanted. Val Love Takuma's mission was successful, and Ikika managed to increase her strength level. Takuma eventually felt love for all of the Valkyries and transformed into Einhager, pulling out his book. Currently, his strength is level 10. At home, the Valkyrie fought Princess Skuld. Shino, assisted by Natsuki, used her strength to retain the seal. Meanwhile, Princess Skuld attacked Takuma, who had grown to be the Valkyrie's strength. Natsuki, who knows Takuma has gained power, goes to the fight site to obtain Val Love and transform into a Valkyrie. The Valkyrie have come together to battle Princess Skuld and Roskva. As the Valkyrie's strength grew, Princess Skuld drew Akuma back and summoned Galder's power. Natsuki then asks Takuma not to come out of the sword barrier he built since Princess Skuld has transformed into the goddess of darkness. Natsuki attempted to approach Princess Skuld with her sword but was unable to penetrate her barriers. On the other hand, Shino's shield was fractured and broken, leaving the Valkyrie with no shields. Soon later, Princess Skuld attacked the Valkyrie at home with a black ball of darkness, which Takuma quickly stopped. Takuma used Einhager to split the black shade cast by the goddess of darkness, separating Princess Skuld and Roskva's powers. Princess Skuld intervened when Ikika was going to slay Roskva, rescuing her critically injured servant. Natsuki became alarmed when she saw Takuma's condition after he had done battling. Taka and Inukai, who were watching the fight from home, destroyed Valkyrie's shield. At the same time, Ikika remembers something and returns home. Taka then tells Inukai to back off because he knows Ikika and another Valkyrie are approaching. Taka's mission has succeeded in capturing Misteltein. Unfortunately, the fight forces Futaba to be treated for her injuries, and when she wakes up, she immediately runs to Misei. However, Misa appears to be gravely hurt and is still receiving treatment. Takuma soon used his healing skill to restore Misei, but all he felt was her body, not her soul. Fortunately, her body was successfully repaired, but Takuma had no idea where her spirit was, which turned out to be imprisoned in a dark location. Misa had given up when Takuma's light appeared, saving her. After that, he brought Misa and asked her to trust him, as he would take her home. Takuma, who used to spend all of his time reading books after his mother died, learns that he needs to strengthen himself in order to help the Valkyrie. Fortunately, Misa regained her senses, and everyone was overjoyed. Misa apologizes for being unable to care for Misteltein, but all of her sisters are relieved that they have been reunited. Takuma was finally able to see Shino's headless face again. The next day, Takuma goes to school, and Yamada, as usual, leaps out the window upon seeing him. Takuma vowed himself to improve much more for the sake of the Valkyrie. Matsumi unexpectedly contacted Takuma and Natsuki to examine the exam results. Takuma's ambition came true as he achieved first place and became a respectable person. In addition, he was successful in curing his phobia. Takuma returns home at the end of the anime to discover that all of the Valkyries are dressed in bikinis. Takuma was surprised to see all of his lovers and expressed his love for them all. The Valkyrie indicated that they would compete with others to obtain Takuma entirely. This marks the end of the anime. This anime teaches us that love is a source of human strength that may drive us to overcome our worries in order to defend those we care about. This is the end of Val X Love. Thank you so much for staying in this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest contents. See you in the next video.